Fear and trust sit at opposite ends of the employee experience, and HR often sits right in the middle, absorbing fear, protecting trust, and helping leaders navigate both. This conversation with my colleague and friend Prina Shah explores what happens when we start leading with heart instead of fear. It's a two-way chat, a human-first conversation between friends, exploring the intersection of trust, fear-based leadership, and courageous change, helping HR and leaders become the catalyst for creating workplaces that are genuinely people-centred. Welcome to Reimagining HR with Trina Sunday, the rule-breaking podcast where we challenge our thinking and our current people practices. This podcast is for time-poor HR teams and business leaders who are feeling the burn, lacking laughs, and not feeling the love. I'm Trina, your host, and I'm here to cut through the BS, explore different ways of thinking, and create high-impact HR functions. Because happier, healthier organisations are better for our people and our bottom line. So if you are keen to flip traditional HR on its head, hit the follow or subscribe button so you're the first to know when new episodes drop. I'm here to help and also to shake things up. So let's get started. Welcome, and let's start chatting about leading beyond fear. It's all about trust, courage, and making work human. Based in Perth and working globally, Prina Shah is a workplace transformation consultant, trainer, executive coach, speaker, and author who helps leaders and teams to make work meaningful. She partners with CEOs and executives to optimize culture, build leadership capability, and drive practical, lasting change. Her work's known for being straight talking, actionable, and results focused. She is my kind of people. There's been a few posts floating around on LinkedIn, and my dear friend and colleague Prina Shah and I thought that we would have a chat around trust and fear and what it's doing in our workplaces. And fear and trust to me sits at opposite ends of the employee experience. And for me, HR often sits right in the middle, absorbing the fear, protecting the trust, and helping leaders navigate both. Prina's obviously doing a lot of work with leaders, and we're hoping that this casual conversation is going to explore what happens when we start leading with heart instead of fear. And so I'm really happy to have this chat. Prina, what's showing up for you?
Me too. Oh my gosh. So thank you so much for commenting on my post on LinkedIn. It was such an interesting comment that you posted about leaders coming at things from, I guess, a scarcity and a bit of a fearful mindset at the moment. And then, you and I got talking, so let's talk about this in detail. So let's just do this. What's coming across at the moment? So you really got me thinking about this, Trina, in terms of what does fear look like, especially in leadership today? I'm seeing a lot. I don't know if it's just because of, the time of the year. It's nearly Christmas, people feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, everything else in between. But I've got some ideas. So what I'm seeing, not across the board, but definitely with leaders who need help, let's just call it, I'm seeing a sense of control, definitely control, perfectionism, which then often leads to indecision, Trina, obsessing over KPIs. What else am I seeing? People pleasing, that's one part of it as well. Talent hoarding as well, not letting their people go or not sharing their people as well. That's another biggie I'm seeing. And essentially, this is pretty much micromanagement under the guise of high standards, really. Yeah. So yeah, when you got talking about that on LinkedIn, I thought, actually, I am seeing that in certain pockets.
And there's lots of habits in that, right? So I think it's one of the things I'd mentioned to you where, when I look at it through a HR lens, it's the compliance aspects, the command and control.
Yeah.
For me, it is compliance over courage. I'm not seeing as much courage as I did a few years ago. And the risk aversion, I talk about that and I know with you around that being disguised as safety, like we can't do that. We've got to keep our people safe. And it's like, there's nothing safe about avoidance.
Exactly.
There's nothing safe about indecision. Right?
No. Can I jump onto this one? I love compliance over courage. So one thing I'm really seeing, and I don't know if you're coming across this as well. So psychosocial, all of that kind of stuff. It's not new, but it is new to some. And, lots of leaders have had training or upskilling in this. Trina, some of my clients are scared, oh my gosh, with all of this stuff to the point where they've become avoidant now in having that conversation, in dealing with that issue, in case something blows up, So they are just doing this. They're putting their hands up and just not dealing with things. I think that's one factor potentially as well. Have you come across this? Do you see this?
Yeah, I am seeing that. And I think that part of it is, and it's the same thing we've had socially and societally, I think, around political correctness. We have people that throw it around that's like, oh, that's so, everything's so PC now, I just can't be a normal person. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
define what a normal person is for a start. But all that means is that whether it's emotional intelligence or empathy, or for me, it's just knowing who's around you, right? Like, and having confident conversations that come from a place of good intent.
Yes.
And I feel like even the conversations in our workplaces where things are sticky, tricky, and everything in between, we're avoiding those conversations. I think there is a capability gap. And I'll welcome your thought around this in a minute, but there is a capability gap, I think, where we've had some people that are in people leadership roles that really haven't had a chance to practice this and build the management muscle, like where it becomes second nature. And when you're learning something new, it's scary, right? You're anxious doing something for the first time. And so I think for people that have had really strong mentors or leaders that have had these courageous conversations, or they've seen them happen because they've been had with them, I feel like it's different in terms of how they're going to show up.
Ooh, okay. Capability gap.
So I think that's one part of it. But I think there's also a really fine line between accountability and fear, right?
Oh, totally. Absolutely so.
And I think that avoidance is coming from a place of fear. And this is the thing, because your post started out as a conversation around trust. And then I feel like I hijacked it with the fear-based
I
leadership
love it.
comment.
You did.
But I feel like they go hand in hand,
Yeah.
because it's when we don't have trust
Yes,
that we have fear.
totally.
And that's where I'm finding the language a bit interchangeable in my world, not necessarily for the people I'm working with. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I get that completely. And that goes to, the scarcity mindset or the abundance mindset. What kind of mindset do you have as a leader? If it's a scarcity one, it's like Chicken Little, the sky is constantly falling. Yes, you may not have the capability or the skills or whatever, or the will even, we could go there. Or is it a case that you're just avoiding it? I mean, Trina, that's the other thing. So definitely a capability thing, but then you work with executives. I work with executives. Like, come on. How many, radical candor. How many books have there been on frigging having a difficult conversation as well? Have people not been upskilled on this? And if they haven't been upskilled on this, why are they not learning themselves? I mean, we've got information out there at our hands, at the touch of a phone, we can upskill ourselves. I think there's this something deeper in terms of that fear aspect that you really tapped into. I don't know what it is though. I think definitely there's a psychosocial stuff in that managers or leaders feel that, people will complain about them and then things will go wrong and they'll get into trouble. But then I think I'll go deeper, Trina, and say that maybe it's a system of the workplace that's potentially creating this as well. Because if you think about our performance cycles and our performance system, so just a basic performance and development plan, right? If you think about back in the day when you were at work and when I was at work, we are pitched against other people already. So I'm already, Trina against Prina already. Like, come on. So that creates that conflict within myself that no, but I'm only competing against myself. But in a workplace perspective, no, you're not. You're competing against others, all right? And I know a lot of workplaces don't have that performance-related pay, but imagine the ones that do. Oh my gosh, I tell you, that is cutthroat. Those cultures are something different altogether.
Yeah, and those systems are rigged. So I think there's a few things in there that come up for me around, equity in our workplaces as well, and how the 9-box grid doesn't serve that purpose. And then we look at wanting people to think outside the box and be innovative, and experiment, and then we literally put them in a box, right? We put them in a quadrant.
Yeah.
And so I think we've lost touch with what human-based workplaces look like. I think we've lost touch with humanity, to be honest, if I go deeper even societally with that.
Talking my language. Let's do this.
I think we've lost kind of where heart sits in work, in politics, in, where we are in our communities. We've lost sight of what it means to be connected humans. And I think that that's something that we kind of need to lean into. And it's certainly something I'm passionate around trying to bring back into our workplaces, right? Like for me, all of my work is around empowering HR leaders to be courageous change makers, right?
Yes.
Redefining the future of work. And then I sometimes I balk at the language around future of work, but when you break it down, it's like, it's exactly what it is. And if you think about it outside of digitization and AI, where people like to focus, or hybrid work conversations,
Yeah.
it literally has the intersection of where we are from a humanity perspective. If we want the future of work to be human,
Yep.
and human first, and to serve our people interests and our profit interests,
Hello.
then we've got to get the sweet spot right.
Can I get on my high horse?
Get on. Giddy up.
Okay, on my high horse. You have been trained in the best of best culture change theories and practices, no doubt. So have I in my corporate days. A lot of those theories were by men who were consultants who didn't usually work within the workplace, American often as well. Those workplace theories are still out there and still influencing leaders, right? Whereas your way of working and my way of working are very different. So in my book, Make Work Meaningful, How to Create a Culture That Leaves a Legacy, I have a whole chapter on leading with head, heart, and a backbone. So head, you've got to have that clarity. You've got to have, the discernment, whatever else. You have to have heart. Like as a leader, come on, you've got to give a crap about your people, about what you're doing, knowing why you're there as well, knowing why your people are there. And then you have to have a backbone, and that's that fear. You need to have that conversation, or you need to do that thing. And I think, yes, people generally lead with a head. A heart, we're getting there. It still sounds like woo-woo language often. Backbone, this is a conversation about the fear and the mistrust, right?
And I think it is the system, as you talked about. Like if I look at the anatomy of fear, I feel like fear hides behind process. So fear, and we often call it, and certainly from a HR space, and I know you look with a different lens, but you've worked in HR and OD, so you've got the balance of both sides and you've had that insight like I do, but we hide behind it and call it thoroughness, or being thorough, but it's really control. And
oh my gosh, isn't it?
And I really do see that from a HR lens, which is the space that, I'm working really hard to level up where we are in HR.
Yeah.
But it's about creating safety. And you talked about psychosocial hazards or psychological safety, and they are two quite different things. But creating safety has become so sanitized that honesty's disappeared.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to get on your high horse, if I may, Trina. Okay. I'm working with a few organizations who are going through restructures. And no doubt you are as well. HR have a 2-week consultation period. I have some issues with it, which I will share in a sec. But what are your thoughts about that consultation period and how it's being used at the moment?
So I think it's process for process sake, right?
Thank you.
I'm currently working with a client driving massive restructure, happens to be restructuring, transforming a people, culture, environment function in a broader corporate service remit, right? I got given the project timeline that mapped out all the processes and the steps.
Yeah.
And I got to step 3 of about 104. And I'm like,
oh no.
And I said, great that you've got a restructure or a structural change process. Great. Because you've got to map out all the tasks, right? To know that you
100%,
know what you're doing and when. But I said, we don't have people in the right headspace for this. There's a different learning that needs to happen in this situation, in this context, where we are wanting to move to a structure that is going to be perceived as quite radical.
Oh.
Not radical for Trina Sunday, but radical for our traditional practices and people that have worked in that way on the ground for a very long period of time. So it depends on the circumstances. So my problem with process is, and this is where I come from, a human first leadership approach, and that is you got to look at the people to understand the puzzle. And so these puzzle pieces don't fit together currently because people don't understand. If I'm then going to displace everyone in that team because I say they don't have the capability, how do I know they don't, however, have the potential?
Yes.
So if I don't test the conversations, test the structure, put some rigor into really healthy human-to-human interaction, say, here's the concept. like, talk me through the world according to you. But there's a degree of, now this is easy because it's a HR transformation and this is the space where, I'll get on my whole high horse for days, right? Because
Yeah.
this is my SME space as well. But it's like,
Yes.
what if in embracing that concept, we're educating people that there's a different way? There's a
Yes.
new way. And from a HR leadership perspective, I believe there's an opportunity in every single interaction we have as people to show curiosity into what other people's experiences are and to introduce different ways of doing things that might light other people up.
There's a thought.
And if you have people that attitudinally are on board, open, curious, and they're like, I'd be game on for that, but I've never had the opportunity. No one's ever talked about it that way. I would put those people in that job 7 probably times out of 10, just made that stat up. But
Give them a go.
most of the time, I would put people in that job and give them a crack.
Yeah.
Because if you've never tested it, why would you displace an entire team
Yeah.
if they haven't been given the opportunity to work differently?
No.
But you've got to set the mandate, right?
Totally.
Now, none of that, in my experience, happens in 2 weeks.
No, thank you. And one of the things you said is that we're educating people in the new way, definitely in that consultation period, ideally. But I want to flip the script as well. I think people are educating us as well because, they will tell us this will work, this will not work. And I know, yes, there's always naysayers, but these naysayers often say stuff that other people are thinking. So we really need to consider the full picture before we go into that whole change process and, tick, we've done our 2-week change consultation. So I think we can use that 2-week change consultation in such a beautiful, more engaging, more humane manner, like you're saying as well. And then not have our plan, set in stone. We could flex it, depending on what's come. But that's not how the system works, unfortunately, most of the time. The powers that be will decide. And often, you've been there, I've been there. We're the puppets in the middle as HR who have to do the thing, and that's a crappy position to be in.
But it's also why I'm so fired up though, right? Like, it's why I'm so invested to talking with the HR leaders and teams who feel stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's that, and it's the Pulp Fiction in me, but that song Joke is to the left of me,
Yeah.
it's, I think, we need to be able to look at what our role is in that. So what I don't accept is HR throwing their hands up in the air and it's like, oh, I'd love to, but exec won't let me.
Yeah.
Try harder. So my challenge to that is your role is to influence. Your role is to add value to the business. Understand what the business imperative is. Figure out how to help with the people mandate to make that happen. But I think to your point around we learn in that consultation period, we learn volumes. We might learn what people's capability is. We might absolutely learn more about the work because it's done by the people closest, those people are closest to the work, so they know the most about the work. But it's through those conversations that you figure out, is it the design of the job or the organisation, the team? Is it the capability of the people? Is it that there's just a knowledge gap? Is it that this is where I'm curious to know your thoughts. In my experience, that consultation shows me most of the time that it's cultural issues in an organisation that's the problem, not the structure.
Yeah.
So then what do we do?
And here's a restructure to fix up whatever the issue is. Well, we're not actually getting to the root cause of the issue ever, right? Because we've just got this new world that we've just deemed that is the way forward. Absolutely so. And I think going back to what you said, I loved everything that you said about HR and, the executive said, therefore, I don't have a leeway or whatever. No, I mean, I've been there myself and I know it's easier said than done, but you have to have those tough conversations as a HR practitioner for your own frigging sanity as well. And I've had to have many a conversation when I was working in corporate days with many an executive to say, hey, I am the employee advocate for all. I'm not just there for you, And that's a tough conversation to have and a tough boundary to place as well. But as soon as you start to think of yourself in that manner, life changes. And I think your relationships change as well. But then as a HR practitioner, when I started doing that, my job really was to obviously still maintain the good relationships that I had with, the powers that be. But then to re-educate them as well as to, this is what a good HR practitioner is. And this is how I can really, truly serve you to the best of my potential. And this is how we'll get far together. And, I think then once I did that, Trina, that elevated my credibility, so to speak, even more with my stakeholders. But tough conversation to have, I tell you.
And I think the challenge is our HR teams are stuck in the same fear-based environment that everyone else is.
Yeah, totally.
Like at the mercy of, and I recorded this on my last podcast and put this micro podcast episode out on my last one because I have so many HR peers and colleagues that are just kind of feel like they're imploding, like that they're not coping with that tension point, which is a juggle all of the time.
Yep.
But just can't win, right? Like getting slammed from all corners. And I think so there is a fear across HR in having those conversations. There's two things that kind of, when we look at the courage to challenge executive, for example, probably three things actually, but like you've got to have the capability, like you've got to know what you're doing to have a strong base to challenge from, right? So you need to be knowledgeable. We know that. You've got to be good at your craft.
Yes.
But you also need to have confidence. And so fear or a lack of trust strips away confidence. And so you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you're not confident enough to get on the stage, then you can't share those smarts with the world. Like if I was scared about what people thought of me, I would not have a podcast. You wouldn't either.
Yeah,
exactly. Because I share the world, according to Trina, pretty unfiltered, as I know you show up as yourself as well. And it's like, there's going to be people that will criticize things I say and good on you kind of thing. But that confidence and the capability are key. But then the third element I always think about that comes unstuck is clarity.
Yeah.
And so I think what's difficult is we are often trying to navigate this without having clarity on where the goalposts are to then challenge if they're moving or where we fit in to that scenario. And so I think I'm seeing fear and trust, which is the irony, stopping us from having the conversations that could address some of the fear and mistrust or distrust.
I think you've just nailed so much here. Oh my gosh. So last year I published my book, Make Work Meaningful, How to Create a Culture That Leaves a Legacy. People freak out at the word legacy, Trina. It's like, oh my God, I'm not dead yet. I'm not near the end of my career. It's like, you can leave a frigging legacy every single day. So having, worked with many leaders this year and working on, forget your values, forget your corporate mission, all of that. Trina Sunday, what is the legacy that you wish to leave within the workplace? Asking that question of individuals, I tell you, is something else. It's really frigging hard work. Some teams seem to just get there and they know it and they've just got the answer. Some teams or some individuals doing this as an individual activity is really juicy. So I do this as an individual activity first. And then everyone shares, the legacy I want to leave is blah, blah, blah. And you just see the way that people connect with each other after that. And Trina, once you know what your legacy that you want to leave is, I think it gives you that confidence.
Because I've got clarity over mine now, right? So this is where I used to, a lot of my work through Reimagine HR is about, I talk a lot around transforming our workplaces so they're places where people can thrive instead of survive. And I use words that people are using all over the place. And now because everyone else is doing it, I don't want to use them anymore. I have a really strong belief around if HR can transform our workplaces and we change our work experiences, then happier and healthier people go home to their families. Our families have more impact on communities and together we change the world. I quite boldly would say Trina Sunday's here to change the world, right?
Yeah, man, totally.
But I think what I've realised is that's not my legacy. And this is the first time you're saying it out loud. And that is, I've realised that my legacy is not about changing the workplaces. It's about changing the HR profession. So the legacy I want to leave is for the HR profession to be in a better place than where I found it.
Yes.
And for HR leaders to be able to step in boldly, proudly, confidently, and with value to be able to change the world. So the outcome of me wanting to change the world is still the same, which is why I do what I do in Cambodia. It's what I do with gender equity. It's what I do around economic abuse. It's what I do with all the pro bono things I do. It's still about changing the world, right? But at the end of the day, it's this unrelenting question around what makes people happy.
100%.
And that's what ties it all together for me, right? So my legacy is about empowering HR to be the courageous change makers. And everything I do moving forward is going to be supporting me moving closer to that legacy.
Perfect. Absolutely. And I've worked out what mine is. My legacy is to help leaders to be the best that they can be so that people are happy at work, happy at home, their communities are happy, societies are happy. And it's that flow on effect, isn't it?
Yeah, the ripple.
Whatever happens at work. Yeah, so we talk the same language. Completely so, Trina.
And it's why we always bounce and why I always love spending time with you because, we're so fueled by the people that are in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
And while we both work in both angles, you support a lot of the time predominantly leaders. I'm supporting predominantly most of the time HR. And then together we're tackling the same thing from different angles, right? And I love that. But I think a lot of it's about, I think about where HR is and I think about the bravery that it's going to take for us to be able to rebuild trust, change our workplaces to try and address fear. And I'm keen to know, if fear breaks trust,
Yeah.
what's going to rebuild it, Prina?
I have some ideas. I've got a whole chapter on it. Okay. So you've probably done a heap of work on your own business, as have I. From a marketing perspective, I've really been learning about how do people trust me as Prina Shah, as my business. In my book, I've got a whole chapter on the know, like, and trust principle. So first off, Trina, we're randoms working together in a team. It's like a frigging blind date. We can't just, move on to trust overnight. You have to wine and dine me first. Like, get to know me, right? So from a work perspective, we need to get to know each other first off. How do we get to know each other? There's so many different ways. There's formal ways. There's informal ways. There's bringing Trina into the workplace to, hold a team development session with us. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. And taking your leadership hat off as well, I think, as a leader is really important in that know phase. So everyone's on the same level, okay? So we all get to know each other. Then we can work out whether we like each other, right? And Trina, you and I don't have to be best friends, but we have to have some kind of mutual respect if we're in a team together. So there's that likability aspect. And then eventually I feel we get to trust. So I did a whole session on this last week with a team. And, there's so many people who've written about trust, Lencioni and a million others. But I think it really comes down to we have to get to know each other. We have to like each other most of the time. We're not going to be best friends all of the time. And then the trust comes. It's a long, long game. It's not going to happen overnight. And then, there's forming, storming, norming, all of the different things that happen within a team. But if we've got that foundation, the good foundation, we're good. We can have that head-to-head conversation that we need to without you feeling awkward, without me feeling, hurt or whatever it might be. We can just have it out.
Yeah. And I think people think that trust is often these really big, bold gestures though. And this is where I feel like many of us have got it really wrong, right? So this is where it's about, and I talk about in my business moments that matter, but really in our workplace, the micro moments, right? They're the mini itty bitty
Yes.
things that we do consistently that kind of show that we have empathy and that there's clarity and that consistency is queen here.
Yes.
Opposed to king. But, consistency is kind of where, because then we are predictable.
Yes.
We trust people who are predictable. And so if you've ever had to deal with someone who is not predictable in how they show up, and we're seeing a lot of this societally as well with some of our mental health challenges or substance abuse kind of nuances. Wrong word there, so I hope that's not insensitive to some people. But I think what I'm trying to get at is that it's hard to reason with unpredictability or insanity. And in some of our workplaces, it feels like there's no rhyme or reason to things. And so there is a lack of trust because we just have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So clarity helps give us that. The empathy part is understanding where each other are coming, but the micro things.
Absolutely.
It's I was in the print room and here's your stuff. This looked really sensitive. I wanted to bring it straight over. It's the small gestures. And it's the same thing that would happen in your home.
The micro, but the impact is so macro, right?
Yeah.
I've got a whole chapter on moments that matter, is what I call them. And these moments that matter are true to you and your culture that you're building. The moments that matter that I create for my team might be completely different, something else altogether, right? Another thing I did, my latest newsletter talks about false agreement. I don't know if you're coming across this as well.
Tell me about that.
So false agreement, it looks like we all agree after two people nod. The other voices don't get heard. Or do we all agree? Do we all agree? Manager looking at the clock and just ending the meeting quickly. A chat that's 99% solution and only 1% dissent. I think if you're not having healthy debates, what the hell is wrong here? What is happening? There's something too polite, I guess. The stiff upper-lipped English kind of situation I can bring as an example here. When people don't speak up, I think it's really frigging dangerous. And that's an issue for organizations and for leaders, especially because you don't know what's happening and people have just checked out.
And I think that comes back to safety as well, though, right?
Yeah.
I think that comes back. And this is why when I hijacked your post, it's like all roads lead to fear or from fear, not to fear.
From
fear to freedom's where I'm playing, right? And so, but it's how do we get there? But I think this is the thing around the human first aspect here. Even with those meetings where we want to encourage debate, we know that people aren't going to debate in the room. So if we know that in advance, why aren't we sharing things and gathering input?
Exactly.
Through contributory tools and forms and using our, online systems and things to gather intel.
Exactly.
Gather insights, understand where we need to really focus our conversation. And it's like you take all of the agreeable and the other things out of it and you debate the position in the middle that's not clear. But we don't do that. We have the traditional, let's go in the room, have a chat. We've got command and control still where we've got the most senior person in the room. Talking about things. It's like when I talk to some of my groups around the hippo effect where it's the highest paid person's opinion. And so, I'll be in rooms and say, all I can see is the hippo effect. And people are like, what are you talking about?
Oh.
It's like, we're just pulling rank here and then everyone's filing in behind. That's not healthy debate. And that's what trust feels like when it's working, right? You have people that can healthily challenge, that tell the truth.
Yes.
Because they feel that they can. And that's our job.
Because they feel that they can. That's the thing, right? And how can you? So I think your audience, HR people, and, my audience, leaders, I think the answer is really tapping into your own legacy that you want to leave. What's that thing that you want to give, not to the workplace, but to the wider world, the bigger piece? Today, not at the end of your deathbed. Trina, we're going to be working until God knows how long, right? So we may as well make it meaningful. That's my thing. So really tapping into that aspect is so, so important. And then I'm telling you, things really do change. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is, and what I'm cognizant of, is there'd be a lot of people listening to us chat and think, what a privilege to sit there and be mapping out your legacy. Like I'm in the trenches here. Like, who the hell are these woo-woo women that are like sitting there in business and...
Yep. Okay.
And I think, because I get challenged quite a bit around the language of, I used to be game changer. I'm moving more to, but it's true. It's like I want to move people from game player to game changer.
Damn right. Yeah.
And I've got a whole methodology around how to do it.
Yeah.
So, that's for coaching clients. It works.
It works. Yes.
But do you know what works around it? And this is when I was just listening to you reflect then. We can't affect or be clear on the legacy or kind of what we bring to the table when we haven't done the self-work.
No, exactly.
And again, this is when people are like, nah, man, I'm out.
Yeah.
What do you mean I have to change myself? No. And I think if we could shift this, I feel like HR are trying to change the world. We're expecting leaders to change everything. But I think we need to strip it all back, to be honest. And it's just about individuals being able to figure out, to your point, who they are. And maybe legacy is a big word for them, but it's what do you want to be better tomorrow than it is today?
Exactly.
And what does that look like?
100%. And I would add to that as well. So, those people who are feeling super disempowered, I've been there, myself as well. I would ask those people who are listening thinking, yeah, bullshit, ladies, whatever. I want you to consider, if you are really disagreeing with this, good, thank you. Let us know. Get in touch with us. We want to hear, from yourselves as well. But I want to ask you, are you the passenger in your career or are you the driver? Usually, Trina, those people who are really pissed off at work, like, everything's not good, blah, blah, blah. they point the finger to someone else. It's time to look in the mirror as well and to find out whether you are the passenger or the driver of your career, because you do have agency. And that's what working on your legacy reminds you of, that you frigging have agency to do whatever you want to.
And I think that's part of the self-work, right? Is figuring out how to reclaim your agency if you feel like you've lost it.
Big time.
And I think what I'm finding is that because of the lack of human kind of empathy that I'm seeing at every level across the globe at the minute, and I find it really challenging, right? So I'm built at a bit of a heightened scale around being an empath, around the things that I will cry when the news comes on, and I will cry at some of the things I'm seeing that's happening where already I'm being sensitive around some things with some certain countries, with some certain leaders. So we'll save that for another day, not because I'm not bold or courageous, but there's some things that could be compromised.
Does not deserve any airtime here today. Yep.
Yeah, we don't need to name it, and it could compromise some things that would help me change the world. So,
Yep.
Got to work on a few things, but I don't know how we are turning away from some of those things in our workplaces as well. Like, we have fundamentally things that are causing people harm.
Yeah.
And I think what is happening with, say, the legacy or the self-work and the resistance around that, I'm seeing layers of trauma, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I'm seeing trauma in our workforces, among our employees, that's not acknowledged, identified. We're not giving any space for support to resolve. There's post-traumatic stress, essentially, in some spaces. And then you've got this thing where, well, my workplace kind of caused this in some respects, and then I'm being left to feel like a criminal because now I'm navigating a workers' comp system. There's all of this complexity.
It is hard.
And I think that's what's overwhelming for HR, because we see all of it. We see the whole organisation. A leader sees all of it more intimately with a team.
Yes.
And so I think it's a challenge. It's how do you help people to lead with heart when their hearts are broken?
Indeed. Indeed. And when organizations, I guess you've got to be, is it going back to the PC stuff we were saying earlier, like how involved do you want to get? How involved can you get as well? There's a new expectation of the workplace, I feel, nowadays as well. Our psychological contract to the workplace has really shifted over, the last 5 years. And we do expect more of work in understanding me as a human. And I'm really glad that you talk about society. So I study sociology and social psychology. So I always bring society into anything that I do. Because whoever you are within the workplace, you're someone outdoors as well there. Thank you very much. And one thing, I completely agree with you, Trina. I'm coming across people who are dealing with, it's a term that I've just recently learnt about, the poly crisis. Multiple crises, that we're seeing, that we're dealing with, that we're watching on the news. I stopped watching the news probably around 15, 16 years ago. I just read stuff now because it just got too much. But when your people are dealing with poly crises out there, in the world, and they're acting shitty within the workplace, hello, I wonder why that is. So, yes, there has to be some kind of boundary between work and life, but then no as well. I feel like we need some kind of new work-life integration, that humanity, the way that you're talking about, a new way of working as well is what we really need.
And I think most executives would flip the table on the even remote thought that we need to bring more of our people to work.
I know, right?
And so, we've tried to put these boundaries, and I get it, right? Because I get it in terms of having boundaries around where our responsibilities stop and start.
Correct.
But it is fluid. We bring our home to work, we take our work home, and either way, it's going to ruin one part of our life if we can't get some kind of balance or coping mechanisms in place for when the balance is not tipped in the favour that we need. Like,
thank you.
And I could always go through very, very, very intense emotionally and physically in terms of work stuff. I could do it unrelentingly for a long period of time when I knew that I had a month off to go abroad and refuel, like the carrot kind of thing, right? I feel like people aren't getting off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And we're not refueling. We're not re-energizing. We're not refilling the cup, whatever your language is. And I got challenged around being woo-woo when I used the term fill your cup last week.
Okay.
Now, that's one person, right? So let's not exaggerate. However, I found that really interesting that just a concept around energy is finite, energy and time. So energy in and out, who's sucking your energy, emotional vampires in your workplace, who's refueling your energy, both in people and processes, right?
Yeah.
And talking about that and having people go, oh, it's just so woo-woo, like this fill your cup stuff. Like, can we just get it? And it's like, there's some self-work right there.
Big time. Yep.
We can't, you and I, consultants, change agents, supporters, enablers, empowerers, we can't fix that person.
No, not at
That's
all.
therapy. That's what a psychologist and self-reflection work needs to happen. And I don't even say that flippantly and critically.
It's true.
That is where we have some really fundamental things that are flowing into the workplace.
Yep.
And training programs aren't going to fix that.
That ain't going to cut it. We're all so different, Trina. We all have such different needs. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned energy as well. I've been called out on using the word energy as being woo-woo. But let me give you an example. You walk into a room, someone's got their arm crossed, the rest of the room is really quiet. Can you sense the energy in the room?
Mm.
Yes, you frigging can. That's
Yes.
what energy is. Thank you very much. So it is not woo-woo, because then the other thing that happens as well is emotional contagion in a negative sense, which is really crap, yeah? We take on the negative of everyone else. So, yeah, we really do have to work on ourselves. And there's a lot of work.
We need to be able to call it out though, right?
Yes.
So we need to be able to call it out. So I was with a client and delivering a workshop with the leadership team last Thursday.
Okay.
And the CEO, also managing director, family-run business. It's not a space I play in very often, but they really wanted our help with things and they're good people, right?
Yeah.
So I gravitate to where the good people are. And walking into that room, when they walked into the room, the whole leadership group, you felt the energy and the oxygen disappear from the room in an instant.
Ouch.
The body language from the managing director was awful. Now, I'd seen a couple of emails that morning. I knew he was turning up angry with someone else that was on the leadership team. But it's one of these things where me as an external consultant, there's a different way of being able to manage that situation, right?
Correct.
So I flipped the script in the room, had people work on some reflection stuff, and then it was like, hey, mate, can we just go have a chat? I just want to talk about the next thing we're going to do.
Good.
And went outside and was like, what the hell, man? Like, what what is going on?
You called it.
Because there is no point us being here if you can't, like, I know that you're in a really tough spot. I know that your back's against the wall. If you can't be in the space that we need you to be in for this to kind of be able to be future focused, there's no point us being here. Wasting money, wasting time, wasting energy.
Respect to you.
Because the energy in the room and the vibe in the room, it's not cool. It's not okay. But I'm worried about you. So what do you need? Can we do it or should we call it? Because I'll help you call it.
Yeah.
He's like, right. Okay, well, but I'm not being angry. I'm holding my stuff together. I'm like, talking doesn't, it's body language. I said, the words come out of your mouth are not even 30% of what people's communication is from you. So you don't need to say a word.
No, we can read it.
You know, and if you can't contribute to the conversation because you're trying to hold your anger for 3 hours, there's no point.
Yep.
So how can I help you? What do we do?
I love that.
And he said, no, we need to do this. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we definitely need to have this session because we've got stuff that needs to happen. But at the same time, if it's not going to get the outcome and have the impact, it's not the right time.
No.
And this is the human bit in the middle. But it's not easy for a peer to do that though, right? Or a subordinate.
Or is it? Hey, Trina, you don't seem like yourself today. Just a statement like that. Come on. You know, that inconsistency thing that you talked to earlier. And, you know, when you were having that conversation, when you were explaining the way you spoke with your client as well, HR people can completely have this kind of conversation. If you've got that relationship, if you've got that trust, if you do not have the fear aspect in your relationship, that's what a good HR practitioner should be doing as well.
Yeah. I feel like this is where, you know, how we talked about the capability and the confidence and the clarity type stuff, all the C words, the good ones. It's about being able to show up in that moment, though, serving others.
Yeah.
And this is the bit that I feel like we've lost in the fear-based environment that we find ourselves, is that when you're scared, you're less likely to show up in service of others
No, exactly.
because you're self-protecting.
Exactly.
So if you're self-protecting, you're not giving, right? And this is at its very core, like why fear and trust being broken means that we can't then lean in to help other people because we need people to be helping us in those moments.
And you know what? Sometimes we need to call it as well and say it. And that's okay, leaders. It's okay, HR people, to say, hey, I'm not doing well. I need help from you.
But we're terrible societally at asking for help, right?
Full stop, full stop. Absolutely so. But we've seen also when people do ask for help, whether it be in the workplace or personally, how things really do change. That's the other thing. I know, the Western world is a very individualist kind of society, and you've worked in Eastern cultures as well, which are very community focused, that kind of thing. So it can be done. I come from, an Indian culture, which is very community focused. How do we hold our hand up more to say, hey, I'm not well, I need help? Is a question I would ask the audience who are listening. How can you do that for yourself? How can you, Trina, I'd ask the audience as well, how can you respectfully call out the shitty behavior yourselves as well? Whether you are, the cleaner, whether you're a graduate, whether you're a junior, whatever, or whether you're the CEO. Either way, how can you have that tough conversation in your own beautiful manner? We're all very different. If you do it in your own style, then of course that's going to land so much better than Trina's way or Prina's way. Those are the big questions I want to ask people. Like, what is holding you back from a fear perspective, really, as well, people? I want to ask you, what is that fear? Get to the root cause of it.
And I think even though we've talked about the fact that we feel like we're missing humanity in our workplaces, it's also what's going to save it, right?
Oh, totally. I've seen the flip side. Yeah.
I know in my heart of hearts and in the people I work with, the spaces that I occupy, that there are incredible people that care. And so HR has the power and the responsibility to redefine leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think courage for HR is staying human in spaces that ask us to be neutral.
Yes.
So for us to stay human, that's the role modeling that's going to help others that might be listening to be like, well, how do I stay true to myself in these moments? Because that's not me.
Okay, can I jump onto that beautiful statement? Stay human in spaces that ask us to be neutral, HR people. I think HR people don't give themselves enough credit often, and they don't develop themselves often as well, because they're in their frigging echo chamber and they're busy, they're stressed out, they're overwhelmed. I've been there and I've done that myself. But once you start developing yourself in the new world of work, in, new theories, new practices, hello, you're not only developing yourself, but it's that pass it on mentality. You're going to give back to your organization, to your people, to the organizational culture. And what a beautiful ripple effect are you leaving then after you've learned new things? So, Trina, question for you. I don't know if you come across, you work with brilliant HR teams who obviously want to learn, but I know there's many HR teams whose doors are completely closed because they know the best. They're the ones who especially are working in the fear aspect. And I think leaders as well, whose cups are full,
Yeah.
Let's take your language. If your cup is full, ain't nothing else going to fill it if you think it's so full. We can really learn from others and we can learn from our own frigging mistakes as well, but we just have to admit them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the key thing as well that I would leave kind of HRN leaders think about is that, the future of work is not defined by technology, right? It's going to be defined by how much heart we bring to leadership. And it's the heart work that I'm doing through my coaching and through the speaking that I'm doing that's really starting to shift this. Like it's the model, that is, and, there's a similar theme, I guess, because our work, we, both smart people that kind of know how some of these things fit together. But, it is about the head, the heart, and for me, the hands, like around, like how you fit that together in a way that you can then execute. So it takes the woo-woo because I'm pragmatic, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go woo-woo on you, but then I'm going to be
I'll show you how.
I'll show you how, because we need the intuitiveness, we need the confidence. But I really think that we know, and courage doesn't come from a workshop, right? It comes from choosing trust and over fear, basically, over and over again.
Yeah.
And I would really encourage, listeners, to your point, think about their legacy, to think about how we're going to reduce fear and how we take more heart action. What are you going to do this week?
Simple.
Simple.
Beautiful.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yes.
Thank you, Prina.
Thank you, Trina.
As we wrap up, remember this: hard work builds systems, but heart work builds legacies. And my new heart work model is helping HR leaders re-energize, realign, and reimagine what's possible. And it's only just the beginning. So if you're ready to be a part of the next chapter of Human First HR, connect with me at Reimagine HR for coaching, or bring me in to work with your team, because the world doesn't need more HR departments. It needs more heart-led change makers. Are you in? Thanks for tuning in and leaning in to this week's episode as we look to reimagine how we show up for our people, organisations and community. Reach out to us via our website at reimaginehr.com.au with your HR horror stories or suggestions of people you'd love to hear from or topics you want to explore. It's all about people, purpose and impact, and we are here for all of it. Until next time, take care, team.